Hello, hello. It is another Saturday. Welcome into the Master Relationship Mechanics Show. And we are still in this month of March. We are marching in God ordered steps. That's what we're doing, God ordered steps. And the question is your plan working for you? And I love to have some awesome guests on. And I have been blessed today with a financial expert who is going to tell us how to become financially free. She is going to tell us how to make a plan that we can stick with and stay with. This is Mrs. Petrina Turner. And today, all we're talking about is being a good steward of what God gave you. So can we do that? Can we just be a good steward of what God gave us? Learn how to manage our finances, which means learn how to manage our mindset to get to there. So I am going to dive straight into this conversation and introduce this wonderful woman. Hey, Petrina!
Hey, how are you doing, Courtney?
Great. I'm excited to have you all here with us today because I just happened to stumble over her on Instagram. And when she came on my page, I was like, ooh, I love this conversation she's having. It speaks to me. And it really shifted our lives during the COVID, because during COVID, we were actually able to still save. And I know y'all say it's save, doing when everybody else is struggling, we were still able to save and put away because we were following the financial plan that she had given, and it was a free plan. How about that, you all? So that was wonderful. So Katrina, just begin to tell us what it is you do and how did you get on this lane to help other people find financial freedom?
Well, first, thanks so much, Courtney, for having me. I appreciate the invite. I love going on platforms, especially like rooted in God Christian platforms where I can not just talk about how to manage money, but how to do it God's way. So
Yes.
I appreciate you. So basically, my background is not even finance. My background is engineering. I did a career change like a few years into that because I'm like, okay, this is not what God is calling me to do. I can't come to work and just clock in. I felt like I wasn't walking in my purpose pretty much.
Yes.
So I did a career change. I love math. So I just switched to really using data and math and became a statistician and really just collecting a lot of data, especially when it came to like community based data, the percentage of people in certain communities that have education or not, or don't have education. The percentage of people living in poverty, the percentage of people without health insurance. And when I was collecting all of this data, everything pointed to money or a lack thereof, right? Everything. You can't, it's hard for you to, of course, purchase a home if you don't have enough finances. It's hard for you to go to school if you don't have enough finances. It's hard
Yes.
for you to get health care if you don't have, a good job so everything related to finance. So I really started, looking into the whole financial. My dad told me about Dave Ramsey. So I started looking and really educating myself on it. And then my husband and I had a couple of kids, and I was working as a contractor, and my contract ended much sooner than I had expected. And we were not financially prepared at all. Like we did not have enough money saved. We still had toddlers. And we weren't even prepared to, of course, live off of one income. So um I'm the person that's always trying to make sure that everything is taken care of. I'm the one that pretty much does the bills. Have always done that in our household. So I was basically putting things on our credit card because I didn't want anything to fall under. Especially we had two little ones, right? So I started putting more things on our credit card just to try to stay afloat, and I'm making minimum payments on it. And it got to the point where I couldn't even afford the minimum payments. So my husband he had a come to Jesus meeting with me and was like, okay, let's just look at our finances and see what's really going on. So when we looked at our finances, we saw that we could pay for our basics. But he was like, we're going to have to, of course, stop paying for some of these things, including like the credit cards. Call them and tell them where we are financially. And I'm like, I don't want to do that because all the credit cards are in my name. And once we stop paying for that, it's going to hit my credit. So we ended up doing all of that, and my credit, tanked. we were able to, pay for all of our major bills, but my credit tanked. And that's really when I got the eye opener of, okay, I need to get our finances together, because I've always been able to pay our bills and pay them on time. But I tell people I am a recovering spendaholic. Like, I like to shop. So that is why I had to be on this financial journey, so that I can really make sure that I'm staying on some type of plan. So we decided to, of course, about 4 to 6 months, about 6 months in, I was able to find another job, and we were like, let's just get on some type of plan. Like, we really need some type of plan, and we really got serious about really creating a financial plan, a realistic plan. I always put that word realistic in, so that we could still enjoy our journey, and raising our kids, and not have to eat beanies and weenies, so that we could
Yeah.
just take everything out. So we went on. I was able to get an even better job after the job that I had received, and we created additional streams of income outside of our 9 to 5. Created a spending plan, wrote out where we wanted to be in 1 year, 5 years, all that kind of stuff. And when we really got serious, my husband and I, we were able to pay off $40,000 worth of debt within 21 months. So that's really how the journey started. I was just telling you earlier that I became, of course, more empathetic because of our own experience, my own experience. I'm like, I thought everybody was, had good credit and was doing all this. And the reason why they may not have been is because they just weren't being good stewards. But sometimes life happens. You lose a job, something happens where you aren't able to do certain things with your finances. And that's kind of what happened to us. And I started blogging about our journey, and what we were doing and how we were doing it. And people just started asking me, like, oh, how are you paying off debt? Or how are you saving all this money? And, how are you doing all these things? So I always tell people, once 3 people ask you the same question about how are you doing something, they look to you to be the expert in that. And that is monetizable. So I turned the whole blog thing into a business, pretty much. So that's how I became a financial stewardship and business coach.
I love that, financial stewardship and
Yep.
business coach. That is wonderful because, first of all, we have things in common. I started off, went to school as a math major, statistician, never worked in that field a day in my life. I have never done anything besides my own statistics around my own business and things like that. So it's amazing what we go to school for and what we end up doing. God aligns our paths totally different in our
Yes.
world that we do. But I love what you say. We need to have empathy. Empathy is one of those things, no matter what we're doing in life. I think a lot of times we assume everybody's in the same boat that we in. And so when we create plans or we have thoughts, we like, okay, this is where everybody is.
Right.
But
Yep.
the thing is, sometimes, like you say, life just happens
Life
no
happens.
matter what we're doing. If you, like you said, you didn't plan to lose your job, so you hadn't had your savings where it needs to be and all of those things. But now you have a plan to help other people. So if life happens, there is still a plan behind. And this is a great season for you right now in COVID, because I know a lot of people are like, okay, now, what are we supposed to do with one income? How are we supposed to create these other streams? And if we know, according to the word, we're supposed to have at least 7 of them anyway.
Yep.
So
That's scripture. That's
yeah.
Bible.
So right now you're in a place to really help people tap into the streams within. Because I like what you said. If more than 3 people ask you, how are you monetizing it? And I can say I'm guilty, because I help people do so much stuff free. I just be like, okay, I'll do that. Okay, I'll do that. And I'm going to say this to women. We have this natural thing when people know that you can do something. We just jump on, we do it because we're just the go-get. We're going to help people.
Yep.
But there is a place we have to set those boundaries and say, okay, this is taken away from time and energy. Now, how can I get compensated for this? And I know that's something you do for people, is you really tapping in and help them create streams. So how can we connect with you? That's one thing, because I know you have a program on helping people create streams, and I want everybody to start clicking on their 7 streams.
Yeah. So one of the things that I created was I call it a legacy building academy. And it's just a private Facebook group, a monthly membership. And I have monthly live masterclasses inside the membership every single month. And that's one of the things that we're talking about even now is creating multiple streams of income. A lot of times people think that it's just so daunting. They're like, how in the world can I do that? I don't even have a lot of money right now. I always tell people to start where you are. Like we just said, if multiple people are asking you the same question, oh, you make the best sweet potato pie. Can you make one for me for Christmas? By the time that third person asks you, you need to be charging. you know. So in the master class, that's what we're talking about. One, we're talking about just really determining what gifts God has given you, because a lot of times, especially as women, we do not even recognize our
Yeah.
natural abilities and our natural gifts
Yes,
because
yes.
it's so natural to us. It's so common for us. So a lot of times it does take other people, telling us this is what you're really good in. And that's one of the things that I tell people. If you don't recognize those gifts that God has given you, ask other people, ask your family members, ask your friends. And that's really that's what I was doing when I was making that career change. Like, what am I really, really good in? I read a book by Miles Monroe, and I was in my 20s.
Yes.
He's one of my favorite
Yeah.
authors, but he wrote a book called In Pursuit of Purpose.
Yeah.
And that book changed my life. I was like only 26 or 25 or 26 when I read that. And that is how I was able to really hone in on some of the things. Of course, we're still learning ourselves and all that kind of stuff, but hone in on some of those skills and gifts that I was really good in, and like determining, okay, this is where I feel like God is leading you towards. So I always tell people, just start where you are. What is in your hand? Start there. What are some of the things that you enjoy doing? What do you do on the weekends as hobbies? What do you do for free? That people and that you're very, very passionate about. Look at those things and determine how you can bring in additional income by using that thing. So though that's just basically starting where you are. A lot of people are like, okay, you need to go ahead and we should have, of course, multiple streams of income, 7 to 8 to be exempt. That's the average number of income of streams that millionaires have, set between 7 and 8. And of course, that's even in Ecclesiastes is talking about how we should have
Yeah.
7 to 8 streams, because we never know when one is going to dry up, right? So just start with where you are. I think it's not meant for everybody to be a full-time entrepreneur,
Yes.
but everybody should have outside income coming in, even if it's not as much as their 9 to 5. And it could be something as simple, like I said, as baking during the holidays. My mom is an excellent baker. And I'm like, Mom, you can make all this extra money during Christmas and Thanksgiving by just doing what you love, selling these cakes, because people will pay you for that. So that's just something simple that you can start, if you don't have a lot of money, of course, to invest in real estate and things like that.
Yeah, but I like you say, it does not have to be a business. I think a lot of people are so focused on, I need to go get a business, I need to start a business. Like you're saying, Mom, just bake for the holidays. This is something you're already doing. Like for people, like you started with the sweet potato pie. Don't make it so difficult. Just do sweet potato pies.
Yes.
We make it so difficult. We like, oh, well, we got to have 5 different recipes. We got to open a store. We got to go get an Instagram page. We got to go get a website. Okay, make it a stream. Let's not focus so much on opening these businesses and becoming entrepreneurs, like you see. Make the streams, everything. And if it comes to that, God will give you the provision. He will tell you how to set it up and move to that next level. But if it's only 3 or 4 people, you don't want to go out and put the cart before the horse, Right.
You got
100 pies and you only 30. So be careful in that same sense. Use reasoning, use stewardship in your gift, use stewardship in your planning. So when you were talking about that, it reminded me of the widow woman of Zephyrah, how she had just planned on dying because she had no resources. A lot of us are in that place. We have just given up because we feel like we don't have any resources. But the prophet reminded her, hey, you can make some bread. Just like you were saying about those sweet potatoes, you can make some bread. And she said, but I don't have enough except for me and my son to go die. And that's what we're looking at. But the thing is, if we put our hands on it, and what she did is she went from neighbors to neighbors to neighbors to neighbors and got vessels. And as she did, everything she had multiplied. And so that's what Petrina is sitting here saying, go out, the neighbor, the neighbor, the neighbor, and
Yes.
don't focus on so much on this big old social media following or everything that the world has got us caught up in. Build where the prophet of your life is telling you to go. So as
Mhm.
the Holy Spirit speaks to you, go to those people who are your neighbors, because he's providing you direction to multiply what you have in your life. And I mean,
Yeah.
it's a hard journey, really getting your mind wrapped around, like you say, take the time to walk in that purpose, to find it, because a lot of us are doing things that we just see everybody else doing. And we're
Right.
like, okay, I'm going to try to make money the exact same way they trying to make money. And that's not necessarily our lane. So
No.
that is very, very key. So what would be some tips, especially right now? And I'm gonna say coming out of the COVID. We coming out of the COVID,
That's
and
right.
we got people who cannot necessarily go back to what they were doing. How do we need to start readjusting our finances so we can begin to grow? Say we at little to nothing now because we just got our stimulus check.
Hmm.
What should we do with our stimulus checks or our tax checks that can change our finances?
Well, first you have to start with where you are. One of the things that I love, the Bible gives so many good examples. Actually, the Bible has talks so much about our personal finances. There are over
Yeah.
2,000 scriptures about money and how to do it and all that kind of stuff. So I love different examples. One being, of course, the 2 fish and 5 loaves of bread, right? You have
Amen.
to start with where you are. If you only got 2 fish and 5 loaves of bread, then you need to start there. And one of the first things that you need to do is just know where you are, right? So a lot of times we're jumping ahead and we're trying to do all this extra stuff, and we have to first determine where we are financially. So if even if you have little or if you have none, you need to write out all of your monthly expenses, right? Write a list. How much are you spending on groceries per month? How much are you spending on going out to eat? How much are your utilities every month? How much is write everything out, and have it on paper and total them up. A lot of times the reason why a lot of us may not have enough or we think we don't have enough is because we don't know what we're spending, right? So we're always going to overspend when we don't know what we're spending, what we have.
Yeah.
So yeah, so you need to start there. Make a list of all your expenses for the month, and then go back and do what my husband had to show me we needed to do. See what we need to prioritize. What do we need to pay for first? What do we need to completely eliminate, or what do we need to realistically reduce? So a lot of people, of course, most people, especially now, especially when I'm working with people, we spend most of our money on food, going out to eat, right? So we need to realistically see, okay, what makes sense for us to reduce. So if you are working, let's say, and you go out to eat for lunch 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, realistically, let's see what you can cut it down to. Instead of going out Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, maybe you need to bring your lunch in Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and only go out on Thursday and Friday. Just look at simple things that you can do to realistically reduce your income. Now, if you don't have hardly any income and all you have is stimulus and all you have are your tax refunds, then you need to take care of your 4 basic needs first. And that's housing, transportation, utilities, and food. 4 basic walls first: housing, transportation, utilities, and food. Take care of that first, because we have to have somewhere to stay. We have to have something to eat. We need to have our electricity and everything on. And if we are looking for a job or going to work, we have to have some form of transportation. So I always tell people to make sure that you take care of those 4 things first, right? Now, if you have extra money coming in, even if it's just a part time job, or maybe you lost your job, go find something part time. Use your time to be able to bring in extra income. So if that is just going to do Uber Eats, delivering food, delivering groceries, using checkout Instacart and different things like that, delivering medical pharmacy things to the elderly, because a lot of them, of course, especially during the COVID, weren't able to even go out, so they had to have people to come and deliver medicine for them. So use your time to be able to work part-time jobs so that you can bring in extra income and do it based off of your time. All these places, you don't have to clock in at a certain time. You can just click on an app and say, hey, I can do Amazon Flex. I can go pick up this box and go deliver it, and I can do it on my own time. So I always tell people to start there. A lot of times, especially during COVID, there were so many businesses who were thriving. So grocery stores, it was still, we were still packed. We couldn't get tissue, right? So go to grow. If you're looking for a job, yeah, it may not be what you had, but something is better than nothing. So if you got to work part times, at night, stocking shelves and doing that different things for grocery stores, there were so many jobs for that because everything was flying off the shelves, right? So go and see what makes sense for you and how you can. Don't let pride get in the way. Oh, I was making all of this, XYZ, and now I don't want to go to a grocery store or go, do certain things because of pride. No, at the end of the day, your bills have to get paid, your kids have to get fed. So do what you need to do in order to bring in some income until you can get to where you want to be. So those are just certain things you can do, but make sure before you do anything, you need to look at your finances, your expenses, and see what you can. Okay, this is what I'm going to pay now. This is I'm going to have to call them and say I can't pay this until another month or so, or whenever I get a job. Some of these places were letting you postpone or defer your bills. But you need to make sure that before you even call, especially when it comes to mortgage and all that good stuff, that you need to know the rules and how in terms of repayment before you accept whatever it is. Because some people, especially at the beginning when it came to our mortgages, they were saying yes, you can defer for 3 months, but then on that fourth month you had to pay those 3 months of mortgage plus that fourth month. So you need to make sure that you are reading the terms of repayment and talking to them and communicating with them to make sure that maybe they can put it on the back end, those 3 months on the back end of your mortgage, or break up the payments over a year or whatever it is. So just make sure that before you go and ask for a deferment or whatever with any bill, that you know the terms of repayment. So that's one. Look at your expenses, see what you're going to prioritize, reduce, and eliminate where you can. And then one of the things is you have to create some type of a monthly plan. And a
Mhm.
monthly spending plan is just simply a budget, right? You
Yeah.
have to create a monthly plan, and a simple budget is just looking at your expenses, what bills you have, writing down those due dates, and looking at, if you're working, looking at when you get paid. So if your utilities or your electric bill is due on the 17th and you get paid on the 15th and the 30th, then that means on the 15th you're going to pay your electric bill, right? So you just need to go through your expenses and see, okay, on the 15th I'm paying XYZ, on the 30th I'm paying ABC. That's just a simple budget. Looking at matching your due dates with your paycheck, right? So you need to, of course, know your expenses, know what you have, and then you need to create a monthly spending plan as to what you have. And then, of course, we have already talked about getting additional streams of income. When you have that extra money, now after your bills and everything are paid, you're all caught up. I am a firm believer, and especially because my family went through this, saving your money. If you are in a position to have extra money, please put it in some type of savings account, because COVID came out the blue. We could not have, imagined something like this would have happened here and across the world. So make sure that you have enough money saved. Most people will say you need to have between 3 to 6 months saved, but sometimes that can be, again, a little overwhelming. So I say just start. If it's only $50, you can save a month. If it's $25, you can save a month. Just get into the habit of saving. If you were already working and you got this extra stimulus check and you were already caught up, then you need to stick that money into a savings account. And we, a couple of months ago in our Facebook, or we have a free Facebook group, I went through and gave so many tips of ways that you can save. And the best way to save, I think, is to ensure that you have um, a bank or a financial institution, credit union, whatever, that is not connected to your checking account. Make sure that whatever
Yes.
savings account you have, don't connect it to your checking account, because you don't want to transfer money in and out like I had a tendency to do.
Yeah.
So make sure that the extra money is going into a savings account where you don't have access to it. You want to make it hard for you to spend money that you're trying to save. So having that as a separate institute, not having a debit card connected to it is a great way for you to save. That really helped me because I was definitely one of those persons that would go in Target and say I'm going to spend $50 and then spend $100, and I would just transfer money from my savings to my checking for the difference and say I was going to pay it on the next paycheck, and that never happened. So yeah. So those are just some of the things that you can do in order to really get your finances together. Know what you're spending, create a monthly spending plan, save it, any extra money you have. And of course, we didn't talk about paying off debt. One of the things that we did when we were trying to really get our finances together is we were, of course, saving and paying down debt. But because we're in such a precarious time, I tell people right now, if you need to maybe push pause on paying down debt unless you have more than enough money in your savings account, or you have a very stable job. If you're an essential worker, you're always going to have a job because that's something that we need right now. You need to, of course, push pause on paying off debt, because what you don't want to do is if you don't have enough money saved, or if you have a job where you can potentially get laid off, you don't want to go ahead and use the stimulus to pay down debt, pay down like a credit card, and then you get laid off, and then you have to go use the credit card that you just paid off. So I say take that extra money and save it if you can. But if you're in a position where you have that extra and your job is stable, then one thing that you need to do if you're looking at paying down debt is just focus on paying off one debt at a time. A lot of times when we have extra money, let's say we have an extra $100, we'll be like, okay, I'm gonna put a little bit on my credit card payment. I'm gonna put an extra $50 on my student loan. I'm gonna put an extra $25 on my auto, loan, and we're just, we're really not helping in any of
Yeah.
those bills, right? Because of interest.
Yeah.
So you need to take that extra money and focus on one debt at a time. And one of the things we did was we just listed out all of our debt and paid off the smallest one, started paying off the smallest one first. So if we had a credit card that was $1,500 and maybe one that was $3,000, and we had $9,000 on our car note, then we just paid off that first $1,500 car note. And once we paid that off, whatever we were putting extra on and whatever our minimum payments were, we took all of that extra money and moved it down to that next debt. After we paid that off, we took all of that extra money and moved it on to that next debt. So we were just laser focused on paying off one debt at a time. And that really, really helped us to be able to pay off, especially when you have a side hustle, or I shouldn't say side hustle, but when you have extra money, I usually say our 5 to 9, when you have extra income coming in from your 5 to 9, you're working on extra, bringing in extra money, or have that part-time business, part-time job that I was talking about with Uber Eats or Instagram. Take all of that extra money and save some, and then use it to pay down some of your debt.
Yeah, I like that. It's very simple, because I think it is sometimes you listen to financial people and you feel stressed because you be like, well, I gotta save, I gotta invest, I gotta pay off debt. And the thing is, first of all, you're saying I gotta live. And
Yes.
the thing, like the simple thing you said, handle your 4 priorities and get those met. Then after you stably get that foundation handled, foundation handled, then seek out other streams to start implementing those other things. And then the laser focus is very important, because I know, like, a lot of people, when you're in the process of trying to buy something, what you'll try to do is pay off everything you got, and that is horrible, because now you've spent the money that you could use that was going toward what you were trying to buy. Now where have you put yourself, like you say, now you've put yourself in a catch situation that you really didn't help yourself. So you got to have a plan. You got to have a plan. I know I've heard people say you always got to tell your money where it's supposed to go when you get it. Otherwise, it's controlling you. So the thing is, we want people to get control of their money, so their money isn't controlling them. Because a lot of people like to misquote that scripture where money is the root of all evil, but it's not the money that is evil, it's our
The
love
love.
and our lust and our chasing of it, because
Yes.
we haven't learned how to actually manage it and be stewards of it. So that's the key. And that's what I like, that you give us something really simple. We just got to stick with those plans, not get
Yes.
distracted. And when you were talking about those four, especially right now during this season, and I mean, people were doing foreclosures and evictions way before COVID came around. It's just such a mass amount um,
Mhm.
that are going around now. Handling those four are very important, or at least negotiating those four
Yes.
and understanding the terms of those four. Is it going to cost you more, or are you just really holding on for a long time for something that might not happen? And I know I talked to a realtor when she was saying that she was advising people who were like close to foreclosure or eviction on their house to go ahead and sell. So that way the bankruptcy or the foreclosure or the eviction wouldn't be on their house.
Yep.
They would be able to pay the bank off, have extra money, and then go find something that fits within their now budget.
Exactly.
Like
Yep.
you saying, you gotta, like, sometimes you were saying about the job, sometimes get away from that pride that we
Yes.
have and say, okay, well, I'm used to living in this place, or I'm used to having a job that makes this amount of money. You know, the pivot and the change, and you say, okay, well, I'm only bringing this in. So we got to be honest with ourselves, do the budget, how much it costs. And that reduction might mean, okay, the market is good for sellers right now. You make more money on your house. You'll be able to pay the bank off. You have something left, and you might be able to go get something with less of a payment. So
Yes.
that is, we need to just make some adjustments. And the biggest thing is our pride,
Yes.
because we're looking at what everybody else got and what everybody else is doing. Okay, stop taking pictures of your house. You don't have to do
Thank you.
videos in your house. You don't have to take pictures of your house. You don't have to compare it to anything. Good morning, my Sims brother. Thank you for telling me good morning. But those are the things that we need to focus on. Really, is our money pride driven? Is it
Yes.
is it is it pride driven? We need to learn how to live in more secrecy, to the
Yes.
people don't have to know where we live and how we live and
Mhm.
all of those great things. We can keep it limited, like me and you right here, to these walls.
Yep.
Nobody got to see more than these
Nobody.
walls. So
Mhm.
it is our fault that we allow people any deeper into our finances, is the what we doing, how we living, what we buying. That is, a social media world has pressured us to feel like
Yes.
we have to show up in these different ways. And I'm preaching to myself right now, because I've went through some transitions where I felt like I had to show up on the camera this way or that way. And that pride will cost you a whole lot when you feel like you have to step up to the level of people who are doing something else and you don't know what they're doing to be at that level.
Exactly. Yeah, you have, and or what they have done to get to that level, you
Yeah.
know? So yeah, I agree. I completely agree. A lot of times we are trying to keep up with the Joneses, and often we don't know what the Joneses went through, to get to where they are, or even if they're even there. So I think we have to step back. Sometimes we have to look at our own selves and really see. And this is something that I had to do. Where do I want to be, in 10 years? What do I want my kids to mimic when they become adults, especially when it comes to finances? So I, really wanted to ensure, and this was the biggest reason that we really wanted to change the way we were doing money and make sure that we got our finances together, because we were having kids. And I didn't want my kids to take on those same bad money habits that I had, right? There were tons of things. Of course, I was telling you, I'm a recovering spendaholic. So, I would see a sale, and that was my chance to go ahead and I'm like, okay, it was $100, it's $50 now. I'm saving money. No, I'm spending $50. Like, it's $50 that I did not budget. So I think one of the things that a lot of times we have to do is look at where our goals are. And I
Yeah.
really had to pray, and like you were saying, and to make sure that my focus wasn't, okay, I have this business, I need to make X amount of money by this time, X, because I'm very much have a type A personality. So, and very structured planner, like I have to be here at this age, I have to be here at this time. So the Lord really had to get on me and be like, okay, Trina, take one day at a time. Yes, have a plan, create a plan, but also know that I could change that plan at any time.
Yes.
So you have to be flexible enough to know, okay, this is what. Yes, you can go ahead and create that plan, but know that plans can change. So we created a plan for our finances and where we want to go and what we want to do, but a lot of times, often those plans have changed, but only to the point where they have shifted in the way that we're going to get to where we want to be. It may take a little longer, it may not be as quickly as we wanted it to be, but at the end of the day, I wanted to ensure that I am being a role model to my kids and making sure that they're not going to make the same mistakes that I made when it in life, but definitely of course in terms of finances. And we wanted to position our family to be in a different place. Of course, by the time they graduate from college and graduate, or even graduate from high school. So my mentality, of course, had to change. I couldn't look at the big houses, the gated neighborhoods, and all these things. I knew my husband and I, when we created where we wanted to be, we needed to make sure that whatever we were doing and the decisions that we were making now, we weren't doing it just to look the part, but we want to actually be the part, right?
Yeah.
So the decisions that we're making, that means that I need to cut out, or I can't get, my dream house right now because we are marching towards XYZ, then that's what we're going to do, as long as, we have created the plan. And I know that God is in the plan, and he will make all things new and allow us to have these things when it is our time. And I want to talk about a really just money mindset too, because you mentioned
Yeah.
that as well. One of the things that I had to do, and I often tell people to do when we go through our classes, is look at how you began to view money the way you did. So you need to look at, okay, really knowing and understanding I call it your money story, your money background. What did I learn about money as a child growing up? What did I see about, or hear about money? How did your parents or grandparents, aunties, uncles, close friends talk about money? How did they use money? How did they spend money? Did you grow up not having enough, or, seeing people spend money, or having more than enough? So you never knew about, having restrictions on money. Just really take a look and really sit down and understand how you began to develop some of your money habits, be it good or bad, and really hone in on some of those things. So, because a lot of times we understand that, okay, I like to spend money, but where did that come from? So
Yeah.
I had to really dig down myself and be like, okay, why do I like to spend money? So, like, why do I think that it's okay for me to go ahead and spend this money because it's on sale? Well, that's the way I grew up. So I really definitely tell people to make sure, ask yourself these questions, like, how did I see money growing up? What did my parents do when it came to money? What did they teach me about money? Whether it was verbally, or unspoken. And how did I see them handling money? And now, once you recognize those things, then, okay, what do I need to change? Okay, so one of the things that you can do, of course, the Bible talks about renewing your mind. So you need to start
Yes. Yes.
really educating yourself on finances. I got all the financial books that I could and started reading about it. I was listening to podcasts. I was getting inside money groups. I was just did so much and really inundated myself with all these tips and trades and just different things that I need to do, and really learn a lot about just personal finances. And this was just mainly because, of course, we wanted to change the way we did money. So in order for me to first change it, I had to recognize some of those bad money
Yes.
habits, and then I had to swap out, some of those bad money thoughts and all that good stuff, so that I could start really renewing my mind when it came to finances. Another thing that I often tell people that you need to do is you need to know what type of money person you are, because some of us were just born to spend. I think I was. And I have a child that's like that. So I can't think. I think it's called The Money Couple. It's a book that this husband and wife wrote. I think it's called The Money Couple. And and my husband and I just kind of went through and I read the book, and we took the quiz to see what type of money personality we have. And it was very, very interesting to see. And we had a whole discussion about this, like, oh, this is the reason why you spend money. It's not just because of, how you grew up, but which is a huge part, but it's also because of, our personalities influence the way, we spend money and do money
Yeah.
and all that kind of stuff. And that is a really good, I always tell people, especially couples, to really understand your partner's, your husband or wife's money background, and know their money personality, because when you know that really, it helps your marriage so much the more, because
Yeah.
you really get to understand why they do what they do, and view money the way they view money, and they can understand the same about you. So really, that is really good. And money mindset, understanding the why behind the what, and also understanding that for your spouse as well.
I like that you brought up the understanding the money personality, because
Mm-hmm.
finances is like the third thing that tear relationships. So
Mm-hmm.
usually the number one is usually communication. So
Mm-hmm.
we know we all got a communication style. We don't spend enough energy into actually investigating our personalities as far as communication, as far as our love languages, as far, like you said, as our money personality. We don't realize there are a plethora of resources so we can actually learn our mate a little bit better. But instead, we just like to say, oh, I know how they are.
Right.
But not understanding the why and the reason that and the
Yep.
triggers behind it are actually a lot, are a great tool to have. So when you hit up against that wall, you can say, okay, this is how they communicate. Now I
Right.
need to change the language I use so
Yep.
we can get through and work through these things. So
Mm-hmm.
it does help when you can identify the personalities. So like you say, it's like you walking in that person's mind, because you can say, uh-huh, I understand you a little bit better. Now I don't have to get mad about these things, now that we can have a discussion. And those will take out all of that fighting and all that extra division that happens. So I encourage everybody that is on here, whether you're single or married, find out your money personality,
Yes.
because you don't want to marry somebody with the same personality as you, because y'all gonna be slap broke.
That is so true.
Y'all gonna be
I
slap
even
broke.
Yes, yes.
And
Even
I'm
though,
gonna tell you, because see, I'm like a super giver. I'm a super
okay.
giver. I am. I will give before I shop. And
Uh-huh.
I know that's a mentality thing I need to, because I'll always say I can't never outgive God. I can't never outgive God. But still at some point you'd be like, okay, but you can give away what God has given you if you're not careful.
Exactly.
So I've had to really, address that in me. It was like, okay, why do you feel like you have to give everything away? I mean,
Mhm.
I've literally given away the clothes on my back and
Wow.
the jewelry out my earrings, and it was just like, why are you doing that? Why?
Yes.
Something
Yes.
in you feels like you just have to keep giving, 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 giving till you don't have anything. So there is, even in that, you have to figure out, okay, giving can be unhealthy if you still don't have boundaries around it. So
Exactly.
just like shopping, there's nothing wrong with shopping as long as you got boundaries around it.
Yeah.
So every personality we have, is nothing wrong with that personality, long as we know the boundaries we need to put around it. Any of those things can cause us to go broke. And I
Yeah.
mean, not saying my husband's not compassionate and not giving, but he'll be like, you can't
We
get it.
gotta Right.
Can't get everybody. You can't give everything away. You'd be like, oh, all the voices.
That's good. That's good. Well, and also, and because you talked about how you were a giver, I think that is imperative. The reason why I know that I'm a PK, my dad is a pastor, so we grew up, of course, seeing giving and experiencing giving, and that is something I don't want to make sure that I want to make sure we include this. Giving is should be a part of your money plan, right? Make sure that giving is a part of your money plan. Now, of course, like you said, you need to have boundaries. But one of the things that we do, we make sure, even when we're creating our budget, that one of the expenses, I should say, use that in quotes, that is on in our budget is a line item for giving. And that's for us for giving to the Lord. That's for us for giving to other people who may be in need, and that may be for giving to a nonprofit agency. But whatever it is, giving is at the top of our list of on our budget. And I really do believe that even though we went through a lot of hard times in our marriage when it came to our finances, and Sometimes we didn't really know when we were going to be able to pay certain things. The reason why we were still able to be blessed, and the reason why God would always step in is, I believe, is because we have always been givers. Even when we had very little, we still gave. So I think definitely giving should definitely be a part of your money plan. When I'm reading books, and I don't even know if the person is a Christian or not, one of the major chapters or points in those books is always giving, like regardless. I think it is just um a part of just, God created us to be creatures of giving. He shows it every day,
Yeah.
it throughout. We can just go outside and see how,
He
just,
gave us breath.
exactly,
I would say I
exactly,
woke up this morning with my mind right. He gave us mental stability. So
exactly.
that's why I say we can't outgive God, but even
Mhm.
God has boundaries because God makes us work for certain things. That's why I say when
Yes,
God has boundaries, our giving is kind of like building up our bank of grace with God.
yes, yes, yes,
Like
it
when
is.
we fall slack, like you say, you were in those positions where you were in lack yourself, but you're
Mhm.
continuing to faithfully build up your bank in grace.
Yep.
You'd be like, God, I don't know how I'm gonna make these ends
Right.
meet, but I
Exactly.
know because of your provision, God's grace. And I can actually think at the times probably when I had the least amount of money is when it felt like I had the most, is because it was just like, okay, you have gave to your bank of grace. I really need
Yes.
to help you out so you
Yes.
can continue to still. And it's because we still have grace for others. If
Yes.
we know in the scripture says, I will give it back to you in good measure. So it's
Yes.
the way that you give it, that grace and that
Mhm.
sincerity without any strife with God. He gives it back to
Mhm.
you. He's not stingy with you because you weren't stingy with anybody else. You weren't judging a
Exactly.
situation. You just gave out of a sincere place. So I mean, when I say, you know, I got to watch out on my giving. I don't want people to think, I've become a hoarder in that
Right.
place.
Right. Right. No.
You know,
Yeah.
but
We understood you.
yeah, yeah. But I do want to say is that you came back and said that needed to be a line item,
Yes.
just to say, because when that line item runs out, it does not need to trickle from any of the rest of your budget. You're like,
Mhm.
okay, am I giving somebody else to eat, but I'm spending $50 out of my grocery budget, or am I doing? Yeah, so those are things that we have to be very careful on that.
Right. Yes, yes, definitely. Yeah. So I honestly believe that you just said yourself that you have been blessed. It's hard to be God giving. Of course, we have to have boundaries, like you said, but one of my favorite scriptures in Malachi is when God is talking about, and I will rebuke the devourer for your sake. A lot of times, we always talking about how the enemy is coming to steal, kill, and destroy, and he's coming to attack your marriage, he's coming to attack your family, coming to do all this. He's coming to attack your finances too, because he knows that when we have money, we are able to do more for the kingdom.
Yeah,
So when you give, in Malachi, that's what he's talking about. I will rebuke the devourer for your sake, because he's coming to try to take your finances and get them all discombobulating it, and that will
yeah,
trigger your marriage and your kids and all that kind of stuff. So when you give, the Lord is God is basically saying that I am going to rebuke the. Yeah, it's not going to be always easy. It's not going to always be peaches and cream. You are going to have, just different situations where there might be some struggle. But I will say that God has always pulled through. Like, I'm counting, like, okay, I got 5 meals in the freezer that last for 5 days, and it's 7 days before we get paid again.
yes.
And I'm like, I don't know how we made it, but we did. I don't know how we ate, but we
You hear
did.
the doorbell ring, somebody
Yeah,
invite you to dinner at their place, and on the way
yeah,
out, you be like, "Woo, thank you, Jesus." I don't even go eat tonight. I mean, I've been there. People drop off something and be like, "Oh, we made too much," and I be like, "Thank you, Jesus."
thank you.
People don't understand just how at the right time when
Yes,
people show up, how much of a blessing it is.
yes.
So
And, and that's why it's so important for us too to be able to hear from God. Because a lot of times, God is telling us to go do, when you have that person on your mind and you're like, oh, I need to call that person, or oh, I need to do, we need to be able to hear the voice of God so that we can be a blessing to others. Because
Mhm.
sometimes we don't have to just go and send money to somebody. Sometimes it could just be the meal,
Yeah,
dropping off the meal, dropping off these extra pair of black pants. I bought two, I only needed one. And the person needed the black pants for the interview. So
yeah,
a lot of times we just need to make sure that we're hearing from the Lord and doing exactly what He says. And we don't, we don't know how, what that person prayed for, what that family needed. But if we are
mhm.
doing what God has told us to do, then not only will we get blessed, but we're going to be a blessing to others
Yeah, out of our obedience, we're
out of
always
our
blessed.
obedience.
Yes, yes. And then when you were talking about that, because I know people here still in COVID, they like, I'm not taking no food to nobody's house. I'm not driving on no pay. Okay, they have delivery services.
Right.
If you can drop off the pants and get them delivered through Target, people need food. You can deliver it through
Right.
Walmart, Instacart. It is so many things. So don't stop being a blessing to
Right.
other people because of the world limitations, because it's too many people out here who need the extra
Mm-hmm.
that you have. And if we read God's word, love is really we show each other when we are able to give in our lack. When we're
Yes.
able to give in our lack. Out of abundance, it's easy to give,
It's
but
easy.
God tests us because when they were talking about the woman who was looking for her mite that she had lost, that was what was important because that was her last. That was
It
it.
was her
But she
last.
was still willing to give it because she knew in her obedience, God was going to give back even more to her. So
Mm-hmm.
you might be even struggling yourself right now, but it does not mean it has to be a financial gift. There is something that you have in abundance. Somebody might need to watch their child while they run off to work. And
Mm-hmm.
let me tell you, it wasn't because they didn't have money. It was just because they didn't have anybody else. You might get money just for being obedient and calling your neighbor and say, hey, do you need me to help you out in this situation?
Mm-hmm.
So when you know people's situations, your blessing can come in different forms because all of us are saying, oh, I don't have anything to give to anybody else. My finances are tight. I don't
Right.
have extra pants. I don't have extra food, but you got extra time right now
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
like you just said, you don't have a job. So you got
Right.
extra time right now.
Mm-hmm.
So your time is so much valuable to somebody else right now, and use it where it can be a resource to actually bless you now.
Yes, definitely, definitely, and that to me is the biggest part. At the end of the day, I always tell my husband and I are always talking about like what do we want to be known for at the end of our life? Like what do we want to be known for, or even when we get to see God, what do we want Him to be able to say about our lives? Like, and I definitely want Him to be able to say, "Well done, thou good and faithful servant."
Yeah,
I was able to take the things that you gave me, whether it was my marriage, whether it was my family, whether it was my career, whether it was my finances, whether it was those gifts that you gave me, and
yeah,
I maximized all of them. I used all of those gifts that you gave me.
yeah,
I wasn't walking in fear because I didn't really know how I was going to, if people were going to make fun of me because I got up and, I know you called me to speak and I really didn't want to do it because of fear. No, all those things that you gave me, whatever it was that you gave me, whether it's the best cook, the best chef, whatever it is, I expended them. I use all of them. And for that reason, God, I want God to be able to say, well done, thou good and faithful servant. All those things that you had that I placed in your lap, you were good stewards over. So that is my goal. I want to be a good steward and good manager over our finances. But that's just a piece of course, the bigger pie. I want to be able, of course, to leave a legacy, and that legacy is not just the person, it's just not the finances.
yeah.
That legacy is being good stewards over what God has given me.
Yeah, I love that. I love that because that's our goal at the end. We should all be looking for that. I have a friend that makes fun of me every time I miss their call or I miss somebody's call. I'll text back, "How can I serve you?" And they be like, "What does that mean?" I'm like, "How can I?" Now I'm not telling me to tell you something that's off the chain, but what is it that I can do for you?
Right. Hmm. I love that. I love
Yeah,
that.
because it's all you call me because it was something that I could do for you. So tell
Mm-hmm.
me what it is that I can do for you. You know,
Mm-hmm.
they laugh at me, but I'm sincere. I'm like, what is it that I can do for you? Now, don't ask me for something that you know I have no capability to do.
Right.
But in the capability, because you know who I am and my skill set and my ability, what is it that I can do for you? And that
Mm-hmm.
is where we're supposed to be, not as when we call somebody, what you want from me.
Right.
You know,
Right.
how can I
Right.
serve? Because that is what we were here to create it as vessels of
Yes.
service. How can I pour into you? How can you pour into me? How can we become better kingdom people? So
Yes.
if we can fine tune that and how to become better kingdom people. So man, our time runs away from us so fast. But I want you to make sure that people jump into your Facebook group because I'm in that group. Group. And
Yes.
so I love the information that goes in that group. And I think that's what people don't understand. Everything on Facebook is not about a whole bunch of foolery. Yes, it's like
Mm-hmm.
anything else. You need to be a good steward of your time, what you're investing in, what groups you're in. You know, just because somebody invites you don't mean you have to show up. So
Exactly.
be very careful about the invitation and where you accept and where you're spending your time. So I love your group. I want you to tell people how they can get into your group, be a part of your group. And I know you are a Instagram queen. So make sure that people join you on Instagram to hear all the wonderful information that you give. Tell us where to find Petrina Turner.
Well, I have a free Facebook group where I just give tips. We have different challenges, savings challenges, just different things that we do. My goal is to be able to help people where they are, help them get their finances together. And the group is called Becoming Financially Free. So if you just type in Becoming Financially Free Facebook community in the search in Facebook, you'll find us. And then I'm on, of course, Instagram at Petrina D Turner. On Instagram, that's like you said, that's my favorite. And I'm always I try to get on there and do just tips with videos on finances, give inspirational quotes, give posts and give tips even via my posts. So go and follow me on Petrina D Turner and Instagram and join the Becoming Financially Free Facebook group so we can all become financially free and be able to leave a legacy and not debt to the next generation.
Yes, I like that. Financially free. What does financially free look like to you? And I love that you said financially free. You're not telling people, oh, I'm trying to make you millionaires, billionaires.
Right.
First, I'm just trying to set you free. That way you can see your path that God is giving you. So that is a blessing I want everybody to leave with. If you miss out on your freedom, that's the truth in the word. As she said, there are a plethora of scriptures that tell you and direct you on how to handle your finances. So if we're not free, that's because we're not truly digging into the word we should and listening to the people that God sends to us to guide us through this. Because all of us are not mathematicians, all of us are not money people. So that's why God puts wonderful people like Petrina in our lives to help us and guide us in this place, because he sends us all through something so that we can grow in that area of our lives. So I am blessed, like your shirt say, blessed
Yes.
to be in your presence, and you have to share it with us today. So as always, I close you out with make today better than your yesterday. This is a choice that you have. So today is better than my yesterday because of the effort and the choices that you put forth. So I will see you all next Saturday, same time, same place here, and we will be in a new month when I see you all next week. So I thank you all, Petrina, for helping us march into financial freedom.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it so much. I enjoyed myself.
Thank you.